What's up guys, Syiler here, and I am back with another mount guide, and this time we're going to be taking a look at how you get the Felblaze Infernal Mount, which is going to come from Gul'dan in the Nighthold, and this mount drops on normal, heroic and mythic difficulties, so you can have 3 chances per week, potentially per character, at getting this mount. But for this video we're going to be taking a look at normal Nighthold, which still has a chance of dropping the mount, as it's quite accessible. I think if you're like 370-ish maybe, definitely 380 plus, you should have no issues with doing this whatsoever. I'm like 405, and for most of the fights I don't use Touch of Death, and we just stood AFK to see if there's any mechanics that could be potentially deadly. So I don't think a character at like 380, 390 should have that much issue doing this. If you don't know where the Nighthold is, you're going to head to Suramar. You're going to be in this little area where we were on the map a moment ago. Head inside the Sanctum of Order, go down into this teleporter, head into the lower sector of the Sanctum of Order, take this path to the right, and then on the right you will see a summoning stone, and then we're going to go down that path where that is. I miss it somehow, don't know how. But I'm going to head back, go towards the summoning stone, take a right here, and you'll be heading towards the raid entrance. Now if you've quested in Suramar quite a bit, you'll potentially have a portal in your like main little hub that will take you directly to the Sanctum of Order. If you don't have it, then you can follow this route and you can still do it even if you haven't quested in Suramar at all. Now make sure you're on normal difficulty by right clicking on your character portrait, going down to raid difficulty and clicking on normal. As I said, you could potentially do this on heroic and maybe mythic solo. Don't know about mythic, but heroic could be doable. But as I said, for this run we're going to do normal, and it is quite the easy solo. In terms of the trash, there's not really much you're going to need to worry about. I don't think there's maybe 1 or 2 trash packs that are a little bit scary, and we'll talk about them later on. But for the most part, this trash does very little. It's going to be doing very small amounts of damage. I mean, my HP is barely moving. So you shouldn't have to worry about the trash at all. Just group it up, AoE it down. You could probably pull like 3 or 4 packs at once. But if you want to take it safe, just pull a pack at a time. Now I am doing this solo. Keep in mind, if you have a pet, so if you're a hunter or a warlock or something, you might have a different experience because some mechanics will happen because you have an additional thing in the raid. So it'll think, okay, there's more than 1 person, we're going to do this mechanic now. So keep that in mind. Now the Scorpion doesn't do a whole lot. If you accidentally pull the ads from the side of the room, just AoE them down. The only real thing you have to worry about is Focus Blast, but even if you get hit by it, it's going to do very little damage. It's going to stun you, but you're not going to die from it. Just basically DPS the boss down, you shouldn't have any issues at all. And that is the first boss out of the way, really. Nothing you need to worry about. Just move away from things that look like they're going to hurt and kill the boss. Even if you get hit by things, it does so little, you shouldn't die. Going back to the thing about the pet though, there are some fights that will be harder because you have a pet, so it is worth considering builds where you don't have a pet too, like if you're hunter, maybe looking at marksman and not having a pet out. Stuff like that could help you do some of these fights if you are having a rough time. If you see mechanics I don't see, then definitely think about swapping to a non-pet setup and you might have an easier time. So just keep that in mind. So we're going to clear through the trash and we have the second boss coming up in a moment. Another boss that doesn't do a whole lot. He has a few mechanics. He's going to do an ad every once in a while that you want to prioritize killing. He's going to speed up and slow down time and you'll want to dodge things when that happens. But for the most part, it's just a simple pull him and kill type mechanic. You're going to have these circles on the ground with ad of them. Nothing too dangerous. As I said, kill the ad when it spawns. When he does the speed up or slow down time, just get to the other side of the room wherever he is and dodge the things that look like they're going to hurt. And you should be okay. Even if you do get to that point, and they do hit you a little bit, you shouldn't take enough damage to die anyway, so it should be fine. But yeah, not too difficult of a fight. Should be a-okay with that one. And then moving on. This trash I don't think you need to deal with. I was just pulling it just in case. I didn't know if this was like a prerequisite for the mini boss we're going to get in a moment. So I just pull it just in case, but you might be able to just straight up ignore it, which I think you can. But hey, who knows, just in case, better than having to run back. It takes a couple of seconds to kill them. So once we're in this room, we want to pull all of the sludges, and when you kill them all, you are going to get a mini boss. But if you're on your own, it's not really going to do anything. I think if you have a pet out, it might eat you. Not too sure though, but if you're on your own, just kill it. Like, you can kite it out with the sludge if you really want to, but it's not going to do any damage, so it doesn't really matter. Next up is Trilliax, third boss. Another boss that's not going to do a whole lot. He's going to do a stacking debuff on you, which could potentially hurt a little bit. especially if you end up getting a few stacks, but realistically, by the time it dies, you shouldn't have that many stacks anyway. I can't see you taking more than what, like 6 or 7 stacks, maybe towards 10. I have 3 and he's still hitting me for very little. So even if we have double this amount of stacks, I think we're still going to be okay. Eventually he's going to transition and he's going to start doing this like spinning beam attack. You basically just want to be on the side of him. You'll see it in a moment. But we're on 5 stacks right now and you can still see my HP bar barely moving. Just move out of the purple pools on the ground. And when he does this beam thing, just always be on his side. And you'll be a-okay. He's not going to do much damage. If you need to at this point, you could reset your stacks too, because he does like AFK for a while. So once the beam's done, fly, get to the other side of the room. The boss is going to have to run to you and your stacks could reset then. But I really don't see the stacks being an issue. But if they are, you have options to reset them there too. On to the next sets of trash, and once again, nothing really here that we're going to have to worry about. There are mobs coming up that can chain CCU. So you want to be a little bit careful when pulling, too many of them. But they deal so little damage that it's not really that much of a threat. So you shouldn't really have to care. You'll see what I mean in a moment. I literally pull all of this, and we're going to get stunned. We're going to get stunned again. But we've lost 20k HP. Not enough to really care or feel like I'm in danger at all. And we just AoE them down, no problem. So, pull what you feel like you can handle, but the trash really doesn't do a whole lot, so I don't think you need to worry too much about that. Onto the 4th boss, and that's going to be Spellblade. And this one is a little bit scary, but not that scary. She's going to do 2 sets of stacking debuffs, and she's going to do this Annihilate, which you can't move out of, but every time you take an Annihilate, you're going to get a stacking debuff. It's going to make you take more damage. And you're also going to get the stacking Frost debuff, which you could potentially reset because it doesn't last very long, but she is quite fast. So you might struggle to reset it. But essentially, when you get too many stacks, you either need a way to reset your stacks, or like immunity or something, or just a way to survive through the stacks. Because eventually she's going to get to her fire phase, and, she's just going to reset the frost stacks and start doing fire stacks instead. You see that kind of ice pool on the ground, just move out of it. But yeah, realistically, we're only taking a lot of damage now because we have a lot of stacks. Now that the frost stacks are gone, we're going to go back to taking not very much damage. The Annihilate is eventually going to start ticking up to a good amount, so as you can see, it started to hurt there. So you do need to think a little bit about that encounter, but once again, we didn't use Touch of Death. We weren't using my full abilities, so if I did use everything, it would die before we even need to care about those things. But if you're a little bit less geared, you do need to think about controlling the stacks a little bit better, using your defensives when it starts to hurt, basically playing the fight a little bit smarter. As I said, there is potential to reset the stacks because they don't last very long. So here we killed all the trash in front of the door and we went through the little door to the right, and we're going to head up to the Star Auger. If you don't kill the trash, the door doesn't open, so if it's not open for you, that would be why. And this fight doesn't do a whole lot either. He's going to have 3 phases. It's only really the last phase that poses a threat, so I would say save cooldowns till about 40%-ish. The first phase doesn't do a whole lot. You don't really need to care about this phase at all, honestly. The second phase, you're going to get a stacking debuff, which you don't want to get too many stacks of. It is going to start to tickle a little bit. So this is why I'd say use cooldowns around 40%, because you're going to get through this phase a little bit faster, and we're going to get through the last phase a lot faster. So I think 40% is a pretty good spot. See the little fell pools on the ground, just move out of those. And eventually he's going to transition to the last phase, which is kind of like a void phase. Now the main difficult mechanic here is when he summons the strange thing or whatever it's called. The difficult part is it's going to make the boss take pretty much no damage. So what you want to be able to do here is either kill the boss before the ad even spawns, or if it does spawn, the thing that should not be named or something, you just need to move the thing from the boss and then kill the boss with some kind of ranged spell. So I put my clones onto the boss and I DPS down the thing, and then we're going to be a-okay that way. So you just need some kind of ranged spell, or you need to kill the boss before the ad even spawns. You've got a few options, so it shouldn't be that big of a problem. You just need to be able to hit the boss with the ad away if it does spawn. So with that boss dead, we're going to be heading onto the garden, so we're going to be going up instead of through the door this time, and it will take you into this little garden area. And then once again, trash doesn't do a whole lot that we need to care about. Just pull it, kill it down. It's Gonna do a little damage. But eventually we are gonna get to the next boss. And this one is a little bit more trickier. Now this is one that I think has a mechanic if you have a pet. And if you do have a pet, it's gonna be quite a deadly mechanic. It does a root, and the root's gonna damage you over time. And unless you have a way of getting out the root yourself, it's gonna hurt. But that doesn't happen to me because I'm solo, so we don't even need to care about the root at all. What happens in this fight is he's gonna progressively split into 2 and then 3 versions of himself. Essentially, they're all gonna do different mechanics. You can summon, kill the plasma spheres if you want, as that's gonna explode for AoE damage, or you can ignore them like I do. I would recommend saving cooldowns when all 3 of these guys are out, because this is where you're going to be taking a lot of damage. As you can see, we're getting like 40 stacks of that debuff. A lot of stuff is going on. We're taking quite a lot of damage. So this is where I'd recommend saving personals for and using offensive cooldowns and trying to kill them as quickly as possible. They do have a shared HP pool, so you can multi-dot, all that jazz, cleave, whatever. Get them killed as quickly as possible though, because once 3 of them are out, the damage you take is going to start to become quite scary. And I'd say that's one of the harder fights in here. So, and as I said as well, if you have a pet, it's going to do extra mechanics as well that I didn't see. So just think about your approach to that fight, because that could be one of the more difficult if you are lower geared. But once again, we didn't use touch of death and stuff, so we were holding our punches and not doing the full amount of DPS that we could. Next up is Condrey, and there's not a whole lot to this fight. It's honestly quite an easy one. You shouldn't really struggle with this at all. He doesn't do a whole lot that really needs mentioning, just kill him essentially, but you'll see in a second. You could probably pull the boss with the trash, because the trash does very little damage here, but if you're a little bit scared, you want to make sure there's nothing that could potentially kill you, then kill all the trash down, pull the boss, and then kill him. So he's going to have these bloods that'll spawn. Just kill those off when they spawn, nothing really too scary there. You're going to get a progressively stacking debuff from those too, but I think it resets at a certain point, so you shouldn't really ever have to worry about the Feast of Blood. And then eventually he's going to summon these pillars that you can get behind to stop the mechanic that's going to happen. Can't remember the name of it, but you can line of sight that, or Echoes of the Void. So you can hide behind the pillars for Echo of the Void, but once again it hits for very little anyway, so you don't really have to. If you die into the fight because of it, then line of sight it, not a problem, but you can probably ignore it and it'll be fine. Not a very difficult boss though, you shouldn't have any issues with this if you've killed the prior ones. So next up, we've got Croesus, and this is probably the hardest boss to solo in here, so this is probably going to give you the most trouble. You can either go through the building to our left and straight through it, or we can go down this right path here. It doesn't really matter which approach you take. You're going to have a little bit more trash if you go around the right side, but the trash takes so little time to kill, and is that kind of whatever that we don't really care. Up to you. If you want to save a few seconds, go through the middle. If you don't really care, and you want to waste 2 seconds killing some trash, then you can just kill the trash. It doesn't matter. So we're going to have this little infernal that's going to spawn, kill this, and then we're going to have some named mobs down the bottom. They're a little bit more scary than most trash. They're going to spawn some imps too, but realistically you shouldn't have any problems killing them. They shouldn't be killing you at least. Just one thing to note is they will summon some imps that could potentially pull the boss. Like if you kill the mobs and then there's some imps left, the boss will spawn. So just be careful when you're killing the imps, because if you don't want to pull the boss immediately, that might happen because of the imp's positioning. As you'll see here, there's like 1 imp left at the back. I don't want to pull the boss, so we're just going to AoE down from ranged. So Croesus, the reason this fight's hard is for a couple of reasons. First of all, Fell Beam, you can just move to the opposite side. If it's on his left hand, you'll move to the left side of the bridge. Obviously, his left hand being to the right for us. So whichever side his hand is on is where the beam's going to happen, so you just move to the opposite side. For the slams, I'd recommend standing inside one of the circles just to reduce the damage a little bit. And then this is the mechanic that is going to be bad. So he's going to put these swirls on the ground, and there's going to summon these burning embers, which are going to do this stacking debuff. You want to be able to kill the burning embers as quickly as possible, because if you don't, you're going to be getting a lot of these stacks, and you're going to be taking a lot of damage. So use some kind of range spell, Moonfire, whatever, get those killed as quickly as possible. But you also need to be careful of not being out of the boss's melee range for too long, because he's going to be making you take damage there as well. And then if the boss fight takes you a while, he is eventually going to smash the front of the bridge. So when that happens, you want to move back to the next section of the bridge, otherwise you'll be crushed under the bridge and you'll fall into the water. But that's it. As long as you're dealing with the ads there as quickly as possible, it shouldn't be that bad. But getting too many stacks from those ads is going to kill you. I'd recommend coming and picking up this quest from the first alchemist or arcanist, as that is going to give you a skip once you've killed the next boss 4 times. So once we kill Elisand 4 times, you will get a skip. So definitely worth picking that up. So then we're going to head inside the main building that I was talking about a little bit earlier on. You're going to click on the portal, you're going to head up here, and then we're going to kill the trash, and we're going to be on to the second to last boss. Another boss that doesn't do a whole lot. It might do more mechanics if you have a pet out, but as a solo player, it pretty much does nothing. So shouldn't be that much of a concern. Essentially, all she's going to do is, she has 3 phases. She has like 660k HP in each phase, and you basically just want to kill her. Like, there's not a real mechanic that is scary or it's going to kill you or whatever. There are a couple of things that might do some damage to you that we'll talk about in a moment, but for the most part, quite an easy fight. So there's some RP we've got to get through. It takes a while. This is even sped up, so you can tell how long this RP is. Move out of the circle just so you don't take the extra splash damage. And she's going to summon these 2 ads. It's worth killing both of them, especially if you've got a dot or something, but it's definitely worth killing the pinkish one, because the pinkish one is going to give you a debuff that will increase your like haste or something along those lines. I think it's like spell cooldown or GCD or something. Basically, you're going to do more damage. So use those to basically kill her quicker. You could kill the blue ones as well if you want, as every time it casts Blast, it's going to get a stacking debuff, or buff in its case. So you do want to be killing those off if you're taking too much damage, but you can see it just going away in the background there. It's pretty much doing nothing to me. We don't really care. You can also interrupt Elisand as well to make sure you're not getting too many stacks in the last phase, but once again, not really an issue. And then she was about to do the beam mechanic, but it was something you'd face away from the raid, I believe. No real problem now because there's no one to kill with it, so it's not going to do much. So yeah, you can interrupt that cast she does. But even if you get stacks of it, it doesn't really do too much. So I don't think you need to worry too much there either. And just kill her down. As I said, we're stood in the pinkish coloured ad, once again, getting the increased damage. But here we've not used Zuen, we've not used Touch of Death, we've not really used much. Just trying to see if there's any mechanics that could potentially kill us. And nothing. So feel free to use all your cooldowns. Probably the last phase is the most dangerous. But dangerous is a word that I wouldn't even use for this, honestly. But, you know, save your cooldowns for whenever. You can use them in the beginning if you want to. Doesn't really change too much. As you can see, I'm literally just stood still now. I was hoping there'd be a mechanic that's like, oh, yeah, watch out for this, but absolutely nothing happens. Nothing that I felt was a kind of big threat to a player. Grab your Echo of Time. 3 more of those, and we get the skip. And then we're going to talk to the portal thing again and go to the Font of Night. And then we'll be on the final boss, which is Gul'dan. So once again, we've got to go through some RP, but if you've made it to this point, you've killed all the other bosses, you should have absolutely no issue killing Gul'dan. I don't really see any, like if you can kill Croesus, you can kill everything in here. I think Croesus is the big, like, scary boss. So if you're able to kill Croesus, I think you're okay. Gotta go for the RP again. It's gonna take a while as always. And then we're going to be able to pull the boss. And in phase 1, you'll be able to do a little bit of damage to Gul'dan. Once he hits a certain point, he's going to stop, move out of the liquid hellfire, it's like a green circle on the ground, move out of the purplish kind of big circles, that's where an ad is going to spawn, and just kill down the ads. Don't touch Gul'dan anymore. Just kill off the ads, and then eventually you'll move into phase 2. But the ads don't really do a whole lot. This Fel Flux that he doesn't do a whole lot. Just move out of it. But even if you don't, it doesn't really hurt that much. Kill the ads off as quickly as possible. I wouldn't say use cooldowns or anything on them, just, you know, get them cleaved down or whatever. And then we're on to phase 2. He's going to do this Empowered Bonds of Fel, and basically use mobility to get out of it if you can. If not, just slowly waddle out of it because it's going to do damage over time. He's going to do this Empowered Liquid Hellfire. He's going to summon these Eyes of Gul'dan, which I would recommend killing off as soon as possible. The Empowered Liquid Hellfire this time around is going to leave a green pool on the ground. Just move out of it, nothing too scary once again. If you stood in it, you're going to take damage over time, so no reason to stand in it though, quite easy to move out of. And he's once again going to have the greenish circle on the ground to let you know it's coming. He is going to do this Empowered Eye of Gul'dan too. Just kill it down, it has like 40-50k HP, so shouldn't be too much of a threat. It is going to do pulsing damage to you though, so do kill it. Then we're on to phase 3 and he's going to try and push you off the platform, so don't let that happen. Whenever that happens, just don't get pushed off. You're going to have this debuff on you that's going to leave these like fire patches. Don't stand in them, try and kite them somewhere, but you don't need to worry too much about where because you're not going to run out of space. At least you shouldn't be doing that little damage that you've run out of space. He's going to do the Black Harvest, which is going to kind of deal a little bit of AoE damage, but not enough to care about. We're getting the fires again, so we're just going to move out of those. And then he's going to do this Storm of the Destroyer. If this is dealing too much damage to you, then just run away. Wait for it to be over, and then run back towards the boss. Actually, I think he teleports to you anyway, makes that a little bit easier. And then that's it. He's dead. So, nothing too scary. As I said, with a pet, it might be a little bit different. But this was surprisingly easy to solo, so I think you'll be completely fine soloing this. As I said, 400 eye level, completely easy. 393, it's a little bit more of a challenge, but whatever, it should still be okay. So, good luck on the mount, look out for more videos coming soon. Thanks for watching guys, see ya!